As we trudge along through the dog days of summer, we are finally getting closer to the regular season for the Carolina Hurricanes. And luckily for us, there's news to talk about when it comes to the Canes. We got a promotional schedule and we got an invite for the USA camp for one, Jaccob Slavin.
Your Locked On Hurricanes, your daily podcast on the Carolina Hurricanes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to a Wednesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you to the Everydayer for making this your first listen of the day. 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, talking everything about shore, Carolina Hurricanes. I'm your host, Zach Martin. I'm the credentialed Carolina Hurricanes beat writer over at the Hawkers, also the co-host of the Surgecast, which is a weekly Carolina Hurricanes podcast, along with all of my duties here at Locked On Hurricanes. On the Wednesday edition of the show, we're going to talk about Jaccob Slavin getting the invite to Team USA's Orientation Olympic Camp, which does include 44 players and some familiar faces that are going to be joining Slavin in that camp. And what does it mean for him going into this invitation and all that stuff? And then we're also talking about the Hurricanes promo schedule. Yes, promo night is officially upon us. We know what games and what nights they're going to be, so we're going to give an overall aspect of it. And then at the end of the show, I'm going to give you my 3 go-to promo nights that I would attend if I was, if I had to pick ones to definitely do that for. However, before we get into all of that, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Football season is around the corner. Visit the FanDuel app today and start playing your future bets. Now, starting off, Jaccob Slavin has been invited by Team USA to join in their orientation camp, which does include 44 players as we slowly build up towards the Olympics. That will be in Italy next year. But it's really cool to see that Slavin is getting that opportunity to be going to camp, of course, as a foregone conclusion, because, it's Jaccob Slavin, and it's like, I don't know why he wouldn't be there, but this is just orientation. We're still a long way to go from that, but there are some familiar names, especially on the defense. You talk about former Carolina Hurricanes and Brady Shea, who's going to be there, which is really awesome to see. And also, when you look at it too, that Brett Pesce will also be there. So 2 former Hurricanes are part of the defense of 16 guys that have been invited, including one Jaccob Slavin. So just for the defense, we got Brock Faber, Adam Fox, Noah Hannafin, Luke Hughes, along with Quinn, Seth Jones, Jackson Lacombe, Charlie McAvoy, Ryan McDonough, of course, Brett Pesce, Neil Pionk, Jake Sanderson, Shea, Slavin, Alex Vlasic, and Zach Werenski. Those are your 16 guys for the defense. Now, let's look at goalies: Joey DeCord, Hellebuck, Ottinger, and Swayman. So kind of that's, obviously all the rosters are going to get knocked down, but this is kind of what you're looking at. And in terms of the forwards, of course, you got former Carolina Hurricane Vincent Trocheck, also part of the forward core as well. And, former Hurricane, also Jay Gensel is part of the forwards as well. So a lot of, foreign names that are kind of, people are used to: Boldy, Caulfield, Cooley, Jack Eichel, Connor Garland, Matthew Nice, JT Miller, all those guys. You know the names, the forwards. That's what you're kind of looking at. But for Slavin, after a performance he had at the Four Nations, it made sense. You're talking about 4 games, didn't score a point, but was a +3, which was, when you look at it, tied with the best in terms of all guys in the Four Nations to have a +-. Of course, he was a +3 along with Victor Hedman, along with, linemate Brock Faber, Dylan Larkin, of course, Eric Div a +4, so kind of beat everyone else on that, but still having a +3 is pretty good. Also by Nathan McKinnon, who also had a +4, but Zach Werenski was also a +3. So 3 guys on Team USA's defense were +3s. With Werenski did lead the way with 6 points, but Slavin had, didn't score a point, but he was the main reason why, him and Faber were able to shut down so many guys in terms of looking at Canada, Sweden, Finland. And people were finally giving Slavin the flowers that he definitely deserved, because for Hurricanes fans, everyone's used to Jaccob Slavin doing Jaccob Slavin things. putting the stick in the right place to deflect passes, intercept passes as well, perfect timing on hits, clean hockey. I mean, he's had back-to-back-to-back seasons of 8 penalty minutes or less, and that's including last season where he had 0 penalties in 15 playoff games. So you're talking 95 games, regular season and playoffs last year, 8 penalty minutes. That speaks a lot to what Slavin can do. And for me, it'd be crazy. Like, if you're looking at USA, why would you not bring Slavin back after the performance he just had at Four Nations? Like, yes, he wasn't part of the initial 6 that came out earlier this year, and a lot of people were kind of up in arms like, well, why isn't Slavin there a part of the 6 and stuff like that? It's just news that the NHL wanted to put out. Be like, oh, here's the 6 guys that are going to be automatically, going to the Olympics next year because they're the first 6. And Slavin is one of them. But there's no way that Slavin doesn't go. After the performance he and Faber had, where they're shutting down, McDavid, McKinnon, even Sebastian Aho for Finland, Seth Jarvis for Canada. You're looking at all those guys, still getting shut down guys on Team Sweden. You don't put a performance like that at Four Nations, and then you get talked about around the hockey world going, wow, Jaccob Slavin is that guy. He has been, a rock, a centerpiece for the, USA's defense on the defensive side of things. Yeah, Zach Werenski absolutely lit it up on the offensive side of things, but if you're looking at shut down defensemen for a top pairing, second pairing, penalty kill, Slavin was that guy, and of course we all know that. He does the same thing for Rod Brindamore and Tim Gleason, for the coaching staff in Carolina, where he's first defensive team, on the defensive line, first penalty kill. Every time the puck's in the defensive zone, who goes out there? Slavin. Who gets the most critical matchups against the other team's best players? Jaccob Slavin. And that's why it makes sense for him to go and get the invite to the orientation camp. Of course, I know we're so far away from that right now, and it's just orientation. Of course, there's a lot of other things that have to happen between now and then. But at least you're looking at Slavin as, yeah, he should be there. He should be at that camp. And like I said, there's a lot of good names on that list too. Laime Brock Faber's there. You look at the Hughes brothers, especially with what Quinn can do. Seth Jones just won a cup. Charlie McAvoy with the Boston Bruins. He's always up there as one of those guys as well. They got Jake Sanderson, who's been, on the come up, playing for the Ottawa Senators. Of course, you can't look past Shea and Pesce, who are a great pair when they were in Carolina. Some people might say maybe good, but maybe not great. But honestly, those guys were pretty solid for the Hurricanes, especially that second defensive pair. And Alex Vlasic has really come on strong with the Chicago Blackhawks. He's been really good. Of course, Zach Werenski having an unreal season for the Columbus Blue Jackets. So while I think Slavin is going to be there, there's a lot of other good names a part of this defensive core that's going to make Team USA pretty dang good when it comes to the 26 Olympics over in Italy in February. But it's good to see that, along with Seth Jarvis, who got the invite to Team Canada's camp, a month or so back, that's going to give you at least 5 guys for the Hurricanes that are either on the team already or at a camp. So you're going to get Slavin and Jarvis, of course, for USA Canada. Then you're also looking at Sebastian Aho, who was named one of the first 6 for Team Finland. And then at the time, it was just Frederick Anderson named Team Denmark. But now with the fact that Nikolai Ehlers is a Carolina Hurricane, now he's also, of course, now the Hurricanes can count him as one of their guys that's going. So it's 2 Danish guys going to play for Team Denmark. So right now, the Carolina Hurricanes, with at least orientation invites and or have been named to the first 6, 5 guys on the Hurricanes roster are currently in pursuit to hopefully make the Olympic teams for their nations for the 26 Winter Games next year, which is really awesome to see. But very well deserved for Jaccob Slavin. Like I said, for me, it's a foregone conclusion that he should be there. It makes sense, and I think he will definitely be part of the Olympic roster, because after the showing that he had at Four Nations, where everyone's like wowed and talking about him more like he should be, it would be silly if Team USA didn't bring Slavin to Italy next February. But it's great to see that he at least got the invite and now taking the steps necessary to be part of that crew for next year. Now, that being said, we do have some promo scheduled to talk about as the Carolina Hurricanes released it on Tuesday afternoon. So stick around. We'll dive more into that here in a second on a Wednesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Have you ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's game day and you suddenly realize you want to be in the stands. That's exactly where Game Time comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, or even invite a bigger group to come with you. Game Time makes it possible. Game Time makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices actually drop the closer you get to first pitch, and they've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and a low price guarantee that takes the worrying out of buying. Are you tired of the endless scrolling trying to find the best deal? Well, Game Time's Zone Deals picks the best seats in your section for you, and there's seat views right in the app before you buy, so you know exactly where you'll be. So in that case, take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONAHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON NHL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Welcome back to segment 2 of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day. So we talked about Jaccob Slavin in segment 1, why he got the invite to the USA Orientation Camp. Now let's talk about the promo nights for the Carolina Hurricanes. As they just announced it on Tuesday, we got a lot of theme nights coming up for the 25-26 season. Of course, the first one, opening night, Thursday, October 9th, against the New Jersey Devils. So we got some other ones coming up too. Very interesting when you look at that. We're going to have not one, but two band-ish theme nights for the Hurricanes. We got Margaritaville night that Saturday after opening night against the Philadelphia Flyers. And I'm kind of curious, if it's Margaritaville, shouldn't it be against one of the Florida teams? But I digress. We do have a Margarita night, and of course, coming up once again on a night where I feel like a lot of people are kind of whatever about this one. It's Grateful Dead night once again, and this is April 2nd against the Columbus Blue Jackets. This is the second to last one of the season, so it's very interesting for the fact that we're having another Grateful Dead night when a lot of people are kind of meh on this night, but hey, it is what it is. So kind of pairing that with the other band sort of thing with Jimmy Buffett's Margaritaville. So there we go with that. Hurricanes do have Hispanic Heritage Night against the Vegas Golden Knights on Thursday, October 28th. And not even a couple of days later, it's the Halloween celebration game. Unfortunately, no game on Halloween like last year when they beat the Boston Bruins, which was a lot of fun to watch. But this time it will be against the New York Islanders Thursday, October 30th. So make sure to wear your favorite costumes and all that fun stuff as the Hurricanes will play on Halloween for a celebration night the night before against the Islanders. Kicking off November, this is a really cool one. We got Women in Sports Night presented by Caterpillar, which will be against the Minnesota Wild Thursday, November 6th. And then not that long after, 5 days later, how about Veterans Day against the Washington Capitals? Kind of fitting when you talk about, talking about Veterans Day and you're playing the team from the nation's capital, which is also presented by Navy Federal and supported by K2 K9 Solutions. You'll love to see that from K2 K9 to be supported on that one. And then some nights that are definitely going to be really important. Hockey Fights Cancer Night by UNC Health against the Vancouver Canucks Friday, November 14th. And this one coincides with the night that I really get, I appreciate having. And it's Mental Health Awareness Night, which is presented by Blue Cross Blue Shield North Carolina. Wednesday, March 18th against the Pittsburgh Penguins. So 2 days before my birthday, we will have Mental Health Awareness Night. That's always a big night for me in terms of that. And big shout out to Walt Ruff a couple years ago for being able to send the helmet decals for Hockey Talks. That was really cool of him to do that. But yes, you're talking about Hockey Fights Cancer Night with UNC Health. And then, of course, in March, Mental Health Awareness Night for Blue Cross Blue Shield of North Carolina. Then after that, we got First Responders Night going back to November 30th against the Calgary Flames. And that we're going to have not one, but how about two celebrations for the 20th anniversary of winning the Stanley Cup? First one, Sunday, December 7th against the San Jose Sharks. And then 2 days later on Tuesday, December 9th against the Columbus Blue Jackets for another celebration. So the Columbus Blue Jackets have a few theme nights when they come into Raleigh. But yes, we will have not one, but 2 Stanley Cup 20th anniversary celebration nights. And like I said on my Bullet Predictions episode, how poetic would it be if the Hurricanes were able to win the Cup in the 20th anniversary season of them winning it the first time? That would be really awesome to see. Then, of course, holiday hockey, Tuesday, December 23rd against the Florida Panthers before we go to our winter break. And then kicking off January 6th against the Dallas Stars, it's Star Wars night. I wish it was in May, but of course we all know we're in the playoffs by that point. We really can't do theme nights, so we're doing it a little bit earlier. But it's Star Wars night, always a great night, always a lot of fun to see that happening. And then Hockey is for Everyone night will be on Friday, January 16th against the Florida Panthers. So if you want to show up for that one, definitely do, because hockey is a lot of fun, and I think a lot of people should definitely enjoy it for sure. Kids Day, Monday, January 19th, just the Monday after that Friday, Hockey is for Everyone night. We also presented by UNC Health. And then Special Needs Night following on March 10th, a little bit later on into the season. So probably almost a couple months later, we get Kids Day and then Special Needs Night. After Kids Day, how about Whalers Night makes another return against the Utah Mammoth Thursday, January 29th. That's going to be a fun one. Everyone gets up for that one. Of course, we all know last year, Jesperi Kotkaniemi kind of kicks the whole shindig off with the fight against the Buffalo Sabres, and the Hurricanes beat them pretty good. So hopefully we get another fun night. Of course, now this time, instead of playing like the Devils or the Bruins, Buffalo, now we get the Utah Mammoth for Whalers Night. I'm really curious to see if the Hurricanes will go with the blue Whaler jerseys or go back to the greens once again. I'm hoping for the blue Whaler jerseys because I think those are pretty clean. They haven't been done yet. So we'll definitely see for Whalers Night, January 29th. The Olympic send-off game, Tuesday, February 3rd against the Ottawa Senators. I'm really curious to see what the Hurricanes are going to do with the Olympic send-off. Like I said, as the team comes back in March, Special Needs Night we already talked about. 2 days later, on Thursday, March 12th, how about North Carolina Night presented by Harris Teeter? This is always fun because you get the North Carolina foods, the colleges, all that fun stuff. Celebrating the state of North Carolina. So definitely be there if you enjoy that type of night. Talking about mental health awareness. But then Sunday, March 29th against Montreal Canadiens, it's Military Appreciation Night, once again by Navy Federal and supported by K2, K9 to go along with the Veterans Day. So kind of a nice link up with Navy Federal and K2, K9 to do Veterans Day, and then later on the season, going down and coming back for the Military Appreciation Night, support everyone who has supported in the military or has family members in the military. Of course, talking about Grateful Dead Night on Thursday the 2nd. And then the last game of the season is always Fan Appreciation Night. Well, of course, when I say last game of the season, I mean the last home game of the regular season. Boston Bruins, Tuesday, April 7th, Fan Appreciation Night for that one. So that's kind of the big overall, this is what nights we're going to have, who's presenting, all that fun stuff. And let me know what games you're looking forward to in terms of theme nights in the comments if you're on the YouTube side of things, or hit me up on social media, OneTrueZach or LO_Hurricanes. I would love to hear what nights you guys are going to be going to this upcoming season. Of course, if you're season ticket members, you're going to be there every night. Well, hey, now you get to know which nights to go to and which ones to have fun at. But overall, I mean, it's good to see you get the normal ones that we see every year in terms of, the Hockey Fights Cancer, Mental Health Awareness Night. Those are always good to have. Of course, you got to do the military for Military Appreciation Night, Veterans Day, North Carolina Night, which has definitely become, from what I've heard, a pretty popular thing in terms of the fact you can try a lot of foods around the great state of North Carolina. Of course, everyone's favorite Whalers Night is back once again. A different team this time, but Whalers Night is always a fun one for sure. Star Wars Night, of course, I'm a big nerd. Always cool to see some Star Wars stuff going on, so I'm really curious to see how that goes. But the thing I'm really curious about, like I said, it's the 20th anniversary celebration. What are the Hurricanes going to do this year in terms of that Sunday against the Sharks for the first one, and then a couple of days later against the Columbus Blue Jackets? What celebrations are we going to be doing? That is the big question, but I'm definitely excited for those ones. And of course, Halloween. Halloween is always a fun one. Unfortunately, it's not on Halloween night, but hey, it is what it is. And then, of course, women in sports. That's definitely be a fun one as well to see, incorporating all of that. So a lot of great nights, a lot of great themes to go to, and a lot of awesome promos. So make sure to go check that out at hurricanes.com if you want to get more information on that. But I'm definitely excited for all of that. And that being said, what would be my go-to promo nights if I had to pick 3 that are like must go-tos in my opinion? Stick around, and I'll talk about that here in a second on a Wednesday edition of Locked on Hurricanes. August 26th is officially FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP, eyeing a long shot division winner, or ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before week 1 even kicks off, this is your moment. So take a flyer on the MVP race. Who are you going to pick? Are you going to pick Josh Allen? Are you going to pick Lamar Jackson? Is it going to be Patrick Mahomes? Is it someone you haven't thought about? Maybe it's a surprising dark horse and Bryce Young. Who knows? But you have that option. Maybe you want to crown some champions in August. Who's going to win the Super Bowl? Could the Philadelphia Eagles do it again? Can the Chiefs come back and do something? Or maybe you really like the long shots and maybe want to, put some money down on a bigger bet. Why go crazy? Let's go save, Carolina Panthers. Who knows? Either way, there's so many options you can do this. And how you can do this? Well, you can go to visit the FanDuel app today and start playing your future bets now because Futures Day is one day and one day only. FanDuel, play your game. Welcome back to segment 3 of Locked on Hurricanes, your team every day. Now, we talked about Jaccob Slavin early on in the show about his invite to the orientation camp for Team USA. Then went over the theme nights for the Carolina Hurricanes for the 25-26 season. Who they're playing, who's presented by, and all of that fun stuff. And now this segment, I'm going to do my go-to promo nights. Which one, if I had to pick 3, what 3 would I pick to go to in terms of, ones that are meaningful, and all that stuff, would be a lot of fun to go see in person and stuff like that. And I will say this, if anyone who knows me, especially follow me on social media, I always make this a big deal when this night comes around, especially because it hits so close to home for me at least. And that's Mental Health Awareness Night on Wednesday, March 18th, a couple days before my birthday. So it's kind of cool. They're going to kind of do this ahead of time against, my mom's team because she's from there, the Pittsburgh Penguins. She's a Hurricanes fan now, thankfully, but, being from the area, grew up a Penguins fan. But yes, it's Mental Health Awareness Night presented by Blue Cross and Blue Shield North Carolina. It's always a big deal to me as someone who deals with mental health and all that stuff. And it's good to see the fact that you look at what the NHL does with Hockey Talks, and they kind of do like the stickers on the back of the helmets. They have a lot of agencies and advocacies there at the arena and stuff like that because it's very something important to talk about and just not worrying about the stigma. Making people feel alienated because maybe they have mental health and stuff like that too. And for me, it's always a special one just because you're kind of bringing awareness to something that maybe doesn't really get checked out a lot because, you go to the doctor if you're sick or something like that, but you also need to go to the doctor too if stuff's going wrong and stuff like that. I think it's something that's very important to talk about. So that's always a big one for me. And I kind of mentioned earlier in the show that, the fact that when the Hurricanes did the Hockey Talk stickers, I thought, we reached out. I was like, hey, how can, fans get those? Cause it's, be really meaningful, and was able to get some and always meant something special with the fact that happened. So in terms of for the Hurricanes and what they do, and especially for the NHL, it's great to see that mental health is, definitely important, and the fact they have a night like that. So for me, just because it hits so close to home, I think Mental Health Awareness Night would be definitely one I would have to go to just because it's something that really speaks to me personally. But I think it's something that has to definitely be talked about. So if you guys ever need to talk to someone, make sure to reach out to someone and talk to them. Now, I'm going to kind of combine these into one group because I know they're on 2 separate nights, but I'm going to combine them since there's 2 of them. It's the Stanley Cup anniversary celebrations. I'm really curious to see what these celebrations are. Are we talking about are we talking about the team coming back? Maybe some of the guys come back and do some autographs, do some very special moments. Does the social team have something cooking too? Does Doug Wharf and all of them have some plan? Who knows? But I'm really curious to see what the 20th anniversary celebrations are, because it's crazy to think that we're already 20 years from the first time the Hurricanes won the Cup, which is, like I said, insane to think about. But it would be so poetic, though, if the fact that the 20th anniversary season is the time to do it again. That would be very magical for sure. But I'm very excited to see what these nights are going to be in terms of, former alumni coming back, guys from that team. What are the celebrations going to be like? So there's definitely nights that I would definitely want to go to. It is going to be December 7th on that Sunday against the Sharks, and then Tuesday against the Blue Jackets for the 2 Stanley Cup anniversary celebrations. Now, I'm kind of torn on this last one because I would love the Halloween celebration against the New York Islanders, but also Star Wars night against the Dallas Stars, because I'm a big Star Wars guy. More so Lord of the Rings nowadays, but I definitely still love Star Wars for, just that's what I grew up on, especially with the prequels, but definitely love the originals as well and stuff like that. Of course, some of the animated shows that came out, not recently, but a little bit, a few years back. But Star Wars Night is always a fun time. So I definitely see Star Wars Night would be a lot of fun. And of course, Halloween. Halloween's my favorite holiday. I think those two would be kind of cool. So if I had to pick one of the two, I'll have to go Halloween celebration against the Islanders on the 30th, because Halloween's just amazing. It's fun. I enjoy it. My favorite holiday. Love, horror movies and, scary movies and stuff like that. So, and it always seems like the Hurricanes really turn up for that one. So I think that'd be a fun one to go to. But yeah, so for my 3, in terms of the ones that I would definitely go to next season, if we're up to me, if I was able to go to all those, would definitely be the Mental Health Awareness Night in March. And then, of course, the 2 celebration of the 20th anniversary of the Cups in December. And then the Halloween celebration night game the night before Halloween against the New York Islanders. But if you're on the YouTube side, let me know in the comments. I know I asked you what nights you would go to, but what would be your top 3 promo nights that you would go to if you're able to, if you had to pick 3 games with a promo night, which ones would you go to for the Carolina Hurricanes this upcoming season? Let me know in the comments on YouTube, or like I said, hit me up on Facebook or on Twitter, X, or whatever you want to call it, at @OneShoeZach or LO_Hurricanes. But man, it's so good to see the fact we got promo schedules. That means we are another mile marker past when it comes to getting closer to the start of the 25-26 season. Thankfully, we're mid-August. Next month, we got training camps back going, and then we got regular season hockey October 9th. It's going to be exciting. I'm ready for it to be here. I don't know about you guys, but summer has been dragging on long enough. I am ready for hockey to be back. And it's good to see we get some promo nights, because now we can kind of circle our calendars a little bit more to know, hey, this is going to be a fun night to go to. I definitely want to be there. So, all in all, it's good the fact that we got some more news with Jaccob Slavin going to the USA orientation camp, and now we got dates and opponents and all that stuff for a lot of great promo nights for the Carolina Hurricanes for this upcoming season. But guys, this will be Wednesday edition of Walking. Thank you for listening. There is no off season, bringing you the daily league white stories that matter the most with the local coverage you love from Locked On. Find Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. If you want to keep up with me, I'm at @OneShoeZach on X. The podcast is LO_Hurricanes. I'm also on Blue Sky, the Zachary Martin, where you can click the link trees in my bios. You can find all of my written content at thehockeywriters.com. Got a lot of stuff coming out over the next few days, so make sure to keep an eye out on my socials or at thehockeywriters.com for all that. If you want to check out my other podcast, it's the Surgecast on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. For Locked On Hurricanes, you can find us on Spotify, Google, Apple, iHeartRadio, wherever you listen to your podcast. Make sure to leave a 5-star rating and review, because I might just read it on the show. For YouTube, it's Locked On Hurricanes. Make sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification so you don't miss a show. Hit the thumbs up and let me know if you like the show as well. Share it with all their King X to become everydayers just like you. But I hope everyone enjoyed the Wednesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Enjoy your Wednesday. Circle your calendars, because we've got a lot of promos coming up this upcoming season for the Canes. But until then, and all that fun stuff when it comes to hockey, we'll see you next time here at Locked On Hurricanes, and let's go Canes.